looking at, you know, someone like Icon, he's been around since 2015, so 6 years. This is his 6th year coming into the LPL, so it's a long career, just unfortunately for him, not a very illustrious one. He hasn't really been able to go much further than the LPL, so overall we'll have to see exactly how he works out and see what he's able to do in this third and final game for LNG versus TT. And just a reminder before we jump into picks and bans for everybody in chat, we are going to be jumping into IG versus Team WE later on after we finish off this best of 3 between LNG and TT. But quick look at the bans. We can see LNG on blue side going for the Zoe, the Nidalee, the Lilia, and TT bringing out the Tristana, the Olaf, and the Ophelios. Pantheon first pick for the LNG with a Kai'Sa and Graves for TT.
I like this already for LNG. Because what LMG are doing is like, hey, we're going to go blue side, but we're going to play mainly just about laning phase, about picks. They got a jungler that has very high crowd control and burst potential. And if they stack every single lane with hard CC, then they don't have to play a team play game. They can say, hey, we're just the better players. We're going to play the laning phase. We're going to be a solo queue team, and we're going to stop you with it. They definitely have the talent to do it.
And Xayah picked up here for Light, something that we've seen pretty much across all regions here between LCK, LCS, and LPL. Something that has been kind of creeping forward as a potential fill-in for the Light if you don't want to go for the likes of the Jhin, or even if you get the Kai'Sa banned away from you. And it's interesting to say because the Samira has dropped down in priority, but the Xayah has come up, which is not something I thought would happen.
I do like the Xayah into a lot of these Kai'Sa matchups. You do have the lane priority, and she does fill out as a 3-item hyper carry as well, which is very much what Light likes to play. All of his champions are pretty much relying on Infinity Edge 3-item spike, so I do understand why they're picking it. Typically, we don't see players really like the Jhin into the Kai'Sa matchup, because if both supports roam, then Kai'Sa actually has a lot of solo kill potential with the collector build that we've been seeing in the LPL. You can just kind of fly onto the Jhin, and the Jhin doesn't have an ultimate in the solo 1v1 situation. So we have seen Xayah rise as the premier pick against the likes of Kai'Sa. Against Kai'Sa.
Well, Renekton Graves, but yeah, against Kai'Sa. Again, looking at the side of TT, Renekton Graves, and of course, when you pick that Renekton, you want to try and give him as solid a lane matchup as you possibly can. Aatrox will be banned away. The Seraphine banned by LNG. Little cheeky respect. They do not want that counter coming back in.
I don't think the Seraphine pick makes much sense in this setup. So just trying to make sure that they're covering all of their spots on LNG's side. They're definitely thinking about maybe the Alistar, I would say. That's a pick that negates a lot of pressure incoming from the likes of Leona. Yeah, we haven't really seen Thresh paired up with Kai'Sa that much, because Thresh really isn't much of a front line with the likes of Kai'Sa, with Kai'Sa and going front to back. But they banned Thresh. Oh my god, why?
I'm a god. I'm a god. That's why. I'm a god.
Is it Alistar open?
Because I'm a god.
Alistar's open, isn't it?
Yeah, Alistar is open. Yes, you are absolutely correct. So it looks like Orianna going to be the pick for the mid lane here, as LNG will get picked into that. I feel like you could have left that considering the Alistar is open. However, that is what the side TT decides to do. Gnar going to be going in to the top side to go up against Shalitze's Renekton. We actually saw and an Azir for the mid lane. So again, very, very safe coming out from both sides in terms of the mid lane, and a decent enough matchup for LNG up into top side against Renekton.
LNG going for the blue side counter strategy like we were talking about. They do get the Gnar into Renekton matchup, which is definitely favored for the Gnar. Also, the Azir can push in the Orianna early game. So we are going to be seeing a lot of lanes that have a lot of kill threat, have a lot of priority, and coupled up with the fact that they have something like the Pantheon that can just secure early lane kills. This is LNG that is going to be extremely strong in the early phases of the game. In the meantime, TT are going to round out their roster with a bit more crowd control, a bit more frontline. Not actually going for the Alistar. I think this is something peculiar about Teen's champion pool here, rather than the meta, because I definitely would prefer the Alistar, and most teams do prefer the Alistar. But we are going to get a throwback to 2020. The Nautilus is going to be selected right here. And we have seen the advantage of the Nautilus over the Alistar is you do have a much stronger level 1. There has been a lot of level 1 cheese with the likes with Kai'Sa and Nautilus. You just flash in onto people. You can put 2 plasma stacks on it right away. So we are going to have to look out for that one.
Yeah, first Nautilus for the LPL this split. The coaches take their bows and get themselves out of the way of their players as they jump into game 3. Right now, looking at the two compositions, who are you leaning towards, Clement? Who do you want to see? What do you want to see from them in the early games? Give me your information, Mr. Clement Chu.
I definitely like the composition from LNG a little bit more. I think that after game 2, they realized that, hey, okay, we're just going to be the big, bad, dumb team. We're going to beat you through laning phase. They take away the blue side. They make sure that TT cannot structure their compositions as well, and they just go for lane domination. They have a lot of scaling to match. Most of their lanes have priority. They have a jungler that can close on onto kills super easily. So I do expect this to be a more solo queue-esque game coming in for LNG. It's not to say they don't have a good team fight into the late game, but the way they're sort of playing this out is that they can match most of these laning phases just with the champions that they have picked. And, you know, they do have split push later on into the game as well. On the side for TT, I would say this is a bit of a front-to-back composition, but with weaker substitutes. They don't have the Ornn in the front line, and I much prefer the Alistar compared to the to Nautilus right here. So I do see this as, you know, TT still having something they're comfortable with, but not really the strongest position in the meta.
We are on to the rift for game 3, the third and final game of this best of 3, and we'll wait for the Gyos to go in, give the players as much morale as they possibly can. It's always nice to have a live crowd. It feels like it's been an eternity since we've had one, and we might not be able to hear the Gyos very well there, Clement, but the rest of the people can, and that's what matters. It's all about entertainment.
A lot of things going back to normal in China, so part of a live crowd, always welcome. Just pumps the stadium so full of passion, and especially when you have a home crowd like LNG do here in Suzhou, it typically does become one-sided for one of these teams that has a home crowd advantage.
Especially for a new organization like TT, they haven't even built an established fan base just yet, so it's kind of, you'll always hear very, very soft Gyos for TT, just purely from their age, and also, as you said, not really getting a home advantage as they do for LNG. LNG have gone through many different iterations over the years. Were originally Snake Esports, and now they are LNG, of course, coming into the league. And they've set themselves up nicely with this roster, but I want to see them do more, if that makes sense. I want to see this roster really push forward. Like, you're looking at the likes of Tarzan, and Icon. These guys who, again, like you said, are highlights of their old teams, never really had a huge amount of success. I want to see if they can make that success happen now on this roster.
Definitely what we want to see as well. Both of them kind of broken out of their own team prisons to form this new hero team. Where did you have LNG? Because I actually have them around 12. Oh, never mind.
No, we're actually going to see Light in a lot of trouble. He gets ignited, pushed down. Beautiful play there by Sam D. Gets himself the W off. Nice start to TT in the bot side.
This is what I was talking about in draft. Compared to Alistar, you do have a little bit more kill threat in the laning phase itself with this Nautilus pick. Great pickup from them, and great flash from Sam D to actually avoid the minions, find the perfect angle onto the W.
That is a disastrous start, and this is kind of the problem we see with Xayah being picked up. We've seen this so many times. Why is Xayah not a priority pick? Why is she always considered a last resort as such to other things? Because if Xayah gets behind, Xayah does nothing. She needs 3.5 items before she really starts to do a huge amount of damage in these team fights, or even to these 1v1s. And if the early game leads going over to the Kai'Sa, that's just so difficult to deal with from the side of LNG.
Definitely is true right here. I have actually talked to this about with Lyric about Xayah, and we both feel like she is much more of a counter pick, because if you pick her blind, she's actually a very, very slow champion. She doesn't really get going until she has Infinity Edge, and it's also the fact that poke is a pretty relevant composition in the meta right now. So a lot of teams can just outrange you, and you don't get much value out of your ultimate whatsoever on Xayah. You don't really get the Blade Caller, so we will see her a lot in these Kai'Sa matchups on her trying to counter that out, but she really isn't going to be a mainstay. She really isn't going to be super contested. We don't expect her to be blind pickable.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you feel can be punished very, very easily, and already we're seeing a 10 CS lead in that bot side. Makuya just keeping Chalitza nicely away with those hops and boomerangs. Very easily able to throw this one out, and Tarzan, sadly for him, will walk over awards. They know on the side of TT that LNG are looking around this bot side river.
Good job by Teen right there. They definitely know that SamD just blew his flash, trying to secure the kill. So they are setting up great vision for him, making sure he's not going to get taken down. Taking a look at the mid lane, as we suspected, the Azir matchup is going to push pretty heavily into the Orianna early on. So this is going to give Tarzan actually a lot of space to just clear out onto the bottom side, put a lot of pressure right there. And this is LNG just kind of breaking up the map and playing more of a solo game. You have priority and you have faster rotations. You can play a lot more skirmish focused and just try to beat TT down with your individual mechanics.
Bless is here though, so a lot of time by Tarzan hovering around this bot side, not really going to get too much use. They had full vision of him pretty much wherever he went. Behind the pit, in front of the pit, down towards the bot side, river brush. Everywhere he went, TT knew where to go. So overall, very, very good, perception on the side of TT. Very good warding setup. And it means that SamD, it's going to be very, very easy for him to be able to keep himself safe if they're just able to keep that vision down and make sure that there's no, surprise shenanigans, available for LNG.
Yeah, and this is definitely not something that LNG wanted to see right here. They definitely would have preferred that lane to be set up a little bit better. Nautilus is actually a champion that's fairly easy to kill in lane if you can just have the Pantheon roaming there as well. So I think we are going to see a lot more attention coming in from the Pantheon, especially around level 6, to kind of rectify this situation. The top lane doesn't really need that much attention right there. And for now, they're just going to keep on banking on the advantage that they have in the bottom lane.
First Dragon goes to TT for the third time in 3 games. They've had pretty decent bot lane control, and this is something that TT could definitely work around. This is something that they've shown consistently throughout their 2 series, is that their bot lane is solid. Their, duo of SamD and Teen is a decent enough duo to be able to make, decent work of these kind of early objectives. You see right now... Got all the little ones, but the big one will go over to Bless. And Tarzan, he's falling a little bit behind in the jungle farm right now. You can see already he's a level behind, just about hit level 6 as he was hovering towards that mid lane. But again, these are little small things that can happen, and the way the jungle is right now, you want to get as close to level 9 as you possibly can, because if you don't, you're just going to end up struggling in the long run of the game.
They do have to get this Pantheon going at this point. He is not a champion that farms particularly well. However, I do like what LNG is doing. They are roaming their support here. It is going to be a supportal combat into the top side.
Oh, but the junglers are just too big, and the Tarzan picks himself up a kill. Flash! Not really going to do much there for Iwandi as he tried to follow up, but overall, LNG, they fight over the red buff, they get the red buff, and they equalize the kills.
Bless just went in a little bit too far. He definitely did not expect the likes of Iwandi to show up in that position. He gets tagged out, Flash has to be burned, and that's a great start for Tarzan. I think he does actually walk away with the red buff here as well. So instantly rotation into the bottom side. They want to make sure that that advantage is going to go and shut down shut down SamD.
For SamD, very safe for him to be able to push this one up. Like we said, has about a 15 CS lead in that bot side. These minions are all taken down. Actually, might be about a little bit more than that. But overall, still very, very safe just to farm up a Storm. Has got himself the killer instinct, the cleanse, the flash. Iwandi feels like something is up with the level 6 hit by SamD. Yeah, they're trying to do the same tricks. Teen just making sure he knows there. Uses the Riptide to say, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to play. I'm back in my bot lane. And right now, the vision control, as you can see along that river, there's 3 pink wards just lining this one up for Bless. So he knows he's in relative safety and unknowing knowledge that he can walk up to this pretty damn easily. One day using the Hex Flash just as a way of scaring people off. I quite like that play myself. And Tarzan, he will get pressure over this Scuttle Crab.
Good move from LNG. I love the pathing that Tarzan actually took right there. They knew that there was likely a ward into the Tri-Brush, so he actually takes the Blast Cone straight into the Dragon Pit. They have priority mid, able to steal away that Scuttle right in front of Bless. And if you look at the vision right now, this is going to make it very difficult for Braves to find any plays here. Even though SamD does have an advantage, he's not going to be able to poke his head out because Pantheon can just man drop into his lane. So I love the setup. I love chaining the priority around with the mid lane to just make sure this bot lane can stay afloat.
And I love you, Clement.
Oh, thank you.
That's all I need to say about that. So no problem, man. You know, so it's nice having you back. And see, Dredgeline does land on top of Iwandi, but he's got himself a pretty tanky W shield. Gets himself back into a pretty decent position. Over back towards the blue buff, we see Tarzan and Icon just trading that one off. And it's a very much a slow game, similar to game 2. Not really a huge amount of kills going out. We're probably going to have to wait until those dragons to see if either of these sides really want to fight.
That's why I love the draft from LMG. Not only do they have a lot of lane priority, their scaling into the late game works out for them quite well too. They do have the side lane split push pressure with the Gnar into the Renekton, and TT doesn't really have the front line to tank the damage incoming from the likes of from Xayah and Azir into the late game either. So LNG are just sitting pretty comfortably. They have an acceleration button if they want to go for it right now. They have a lot of priority, as we were mentioning, especially on Icon. But they can sit back and just take objectives too. I don't think they're going to be unhappy about scaling alongside with TT.
It looks like TT are not happy with giving over this Rift Herald for free. They recognize that Tarzan is probably there. Full vision, give it over. Tarzan will have to back away. They do not have the full 5 members here. As I say that, he is still staying down here. They're trying to see if they can just burst this one down. Rift Herald will almost certainly reset. Dredgeline does miss. Tarzan down below half HP. Chalitza being peppered by Mikuya. Now the Rift Herald has been started again. TT, they're trying to see if they can catch somebody out. Mikuya is going to be the target.
Oh no.
Oh, Shockwave is a big, big whiff, and that means TT, they have to back away. They don't have that big AoE. They cannot fight this, and unfortunately for them, that probably does mean they lose positioning over the Dragon as well.
Bit of a missed opportunity incoming from TT. They actually have all 5 members on the spot earlier than the than LNG, but they're not able to find the engage right off the bat. Actually missed the ultimate there, and Mikuya just with a simple hop keeps on to his flash. He gets away scot-free, and they also take the Herald. So massive win on the side of LNG.
It's a 1,000 gold lead over the side of LNG. You can see it's pretty much in the mid lane and the top side, purely because there's a 30 CS or 25 CS lead now for the Azir over Captain. And Icon, he's been able to bully out Captain quite a bit. Fair enough, we could give Captain a bit of a pass in the last game because he was on the Karma, which just struggled to kind of, you know, deal with that kind of a presence. But overall, Captain has just looked much weaker against someone like Icon, and it's been a very big thorn in the side of TT.
It's hard to look good against Icon, man. I totally sympathize with Captain. He is coming over from the IG Young roster, had a very good performance over there on that squad. But against the likes of Icon, not even the best of the LPL mid laners have had a great time against him in lane. And with this pushing matchup coming in from Azir, not really much Captain can actually do. Icon is going to be sitting pretty right here. We typically have seen the Leandri's Anguish being picked up, just a little bit more sustained damage going into the later phases of the game. And with that priority, it's also allowing Tarzan to reach that mythic item first. He's going to go into the Gore Drinker. We have seen this a lot, even though you'd think that Pantheon might prefer the lethality builds. Gore Drinker does allow him to survive a lot longer.
Depth charge goes out, feathers do fly. Sam D needs to get back behind that line of feathers as he does not want to be rooted by the blade call. Captain Bless here, waiting to see if they could catch Tarzan out. They do not catch him out, and they walk themselves back over a ward. And again, more and more pressure going in favor of LNG. They're the ones that are soaking up this bot lane, which realistically should have been a much easier lane for the side of Sam D. It's not been hard, but I feel like they should have gotten more advantages considering how well that early game went.
It's just the pressure incoming from Tarzan. He's just doing a great job making sure his bot lane is never punished whatsoever. A lot of the times we saw TT was able to push the wave. They had free wave manipulation, but they couldn't get more out of it just because that Pantheon was hovering around that lane. And I didn't really talk much through that trade because I kind of knew how that trade really goes through. If Light is able to hit his R button, the Nautilus ult is not going to be able to tag him. Sam D can't really run past the feathers, so it just fizzles out. Light burns his ultimate, but Iwandi holds on to his, and they are going to be looking at a pretty strong Drake setup now too. with the top lane that is going to have priority. So things do look like they're slowly slipping away from TT.
Now it's a 2,000 gold lead. LNG just eking out a small advantage wherever they can, and this Xayah that was punished in the early game has not been punished that much since. 2.5 minutes till the next Drake, so we should not see any kind of real fight breaking out before then. Might see something around the Rift Herald, but unlikely. Well, it depends. It is LPL, I should say. I should preface. But again, overall, Mikuya in general has had a fantastic laning phase against this Renekton. They haven't really had to do anything about him. Chalitza's just had to try and soak up as much as he possibly can, and you can see the top turret is down below half HP, and that's all Mikuya. It's all him just constantly pushing this up, making sure that this Renekton is just constantly at pressure.
And unfortunately, that is the matchup. We do see Mikuya going for the Divine Sunderer, and that is a much better item in terms of the split pushing. We have seen a lot of Nars go for the Gore Drinker as well, like Zoom, where he does like to play in the team fight, go into the front line. But as we were talking about, Mikuya does have a very easy matchup for the split push. He's going to cash in onto that, just go for the extra damage onto the Spellblade proc. It's actually 10% of your max HP, so it really cancels out a lot of the benefits that Dominus can give you. We just saw Captain get a little bit of damage on Tarzan, but there's nothing much that they can set up in this river just because Icon is so damn dominant with pushing in this wave. And he actually does go into the Luden's Tempest instead of the Liandry's. That's pretty interesting. Does just want to index into that lane control rather than the outright amount of damage he can do.
Oh, you see Mikuya using the shove onto Chalitza, pushing him back into there. And we actually see Mikuya was so confident in this lane matchup that he was able to pick up a very late call. So he has he's going to have over 200 CS before he finishes off this one. So he had done 100 CS, and then he's going to do another 100, but he's going to get a little bit extra gold because he knows just how safe he is. No one's really come up here in ages from the side of TT, and it's a slow, methodical, thought-out setup from the side of LNG that's just getting them these, again, small advantages.
There will be a point where TT realizes that they're getting outscaled, and they're going to have to find their way into the game by playing super aggressively. I don't think they have a team composition that can take on LNG 5v5. I don't think their front line is cut out for that. So this is another test for TT. You know, we have seen them playing from ahead. We have seen playing around teamfight compositions, the 5v5. But this is a game that I sort of sense that they will have to try and get some more picks. Their composition isn't really going to work out.
Oh, solo player does go down. Bless has to flash himself away. Teen, though, has been left to the wolves. Like a lamb to slaughter, he will be picked up and graciously taken by LNG. They have full control of this river. Sam D, though, you're on a ward, buddy, and that is a Pantheon man dropping right on top of you. He will have to flash himself away just to get himself out. He will survive, but again, a summoner burned from the side of TT, and that should mean that this dragon is all but LNG's.
And that's why you pick the Alistar instead of the Nautilus. The Alistar would have survived in that situation. You just pop Unbreakable Will. You get out of that one scot-free. But for some reason, Teen goes for the Nautilus, gets blown up instantly. Not really that tanky. And LNG, they're just working so much around that Azir lane, getting him that side of the river advantage. And I love the way Tarzan's been able to chain that. Ooh.
Oh, Sam D says, you want to 1v1 me, bro? That's not going to happen. As they try and keep him safe, does force the man drop, but TP going to be committed here for TT. They're trying to see if they can turn this one right the way around. W has been procced by Tarzan to try and keep him as alive as long as possible. The Gnar and the Azir are here. Sorry, just the Gnar, excuse me. As he tries to get his Mega Gnar going, Mikuya seeing if he can go for anything. Slice dice on top of Iwandi, who has got the W shield. The knock in, Iwandi will just about stay alive, but will Mikuya be able to keep himself just as bout underneath his turret? While that was happening, Icon took his own 1v1 against Captain. So LNG coming out on top in those trades.
It was a 1v1 at the very end, so I think that TT actually found a pretty good pick in that one. I was saying that they needed to get something aggressive going or they were just going to bleed out. Great find by Sam D right there. He gets the solo kill, but unfortunately, a little bit too little too late right there as the priority does come in. And wow, Light is looking for a little bit more, does clear the wave, and secures his tower as well.
LNG, well, it looked like it could have been a massive blunder from Light, and well, still was, trying to take a 1v1 against the Kai'Sa, but ends up working out in their favor. They overcommit on the side of TT. It's a 3,000 gold lead in favor of LNG at the end of it. They stop the dragon stacking. They're able to continue to look towards these advantages for themselves. And this is honestly just a smart, slow, methodical game from LNG. They just need to try and keep Light a little bit on the leash.
I'll be honest, Light should not be looking for that one. Their team was winning. They had a very clear game plan, trying to risk it on a 1v1 against SamD to make a statement. Not worth it, buddy. Not worth it. And he gets shut down completely.
And right now, TT, they gotta feel like they're losing a little bit of ground. It's just a slow kind of death by 1,000 cuts right now from the side of LNG. And for TT, they need to make something happen. Where do you see that something happening?
That's a really tough question because they don't have the most surprising amount of engages. I want to see how this trade does go down. So it actually is SamD, the one to get the first hit in, but Light can't take the shame. He flashes forward, try to find the kill. SamD just outplays him there. And Icon with a great Shurima shuffle. Oh, not even needed. Finishes off just with the Sand Soldiers. Holds on to his ultimate too. And maybe here comes the pick.
This might be a pick. It is a very, very tanky Leona. Iwandi should be safe. Solar Flare lands on top of Teen. Not really the one you want. Grand Skyfall jumped in there by Tarzan to dissuade any kind of a re-engage. And all 5 members of TT in this mid, but nobody dies. While that was happening, you can see Gnar did get a push up on the top side. Azir's getting pushed into the bot lane. So still, LNG getting the advantage despite being the ones quote-unquote caught out. Oh, as I say that, Shockwave, Icon,
there's not enough damage
gets himself
here.
out, should be totally fine. Yeah, should be totally fine.
I like that TT are moving into the 1-3-1 sort of situation where they can have Team go into the side lane and SamD follow up pretty easily as well. So they can look for 1-3-1 pick kills with the Kai'Sa. This is something that has been a staple in the playbook of the Kai'Sa for a long time now. And I like this idea a little bit more, just going into the 1-3-1, because neither of these side lanes are really expected to win. So you can't really play the 2-man game and go past River at this point. Maybe banking on the Kai'Sa plus the Nautilus crowd control will be a better option.
With Baron up now, and you just finished off the Nashor's Tooth. This is smart from the side of LNG. They may have been able to catch TT unawares. They have a ward, but it's not going to give them any information because the pink is there. Bless. No one on TT has a cloak. They're not even going near this right now. This is just a smart, and this is what you could do with Azir. Teen kind of has an idea. Like Bless has an idea, but there's nothing you can do. This is why Azir is so powerful off of that 2-item spike.
Does a ton of damage, is able to sneak that away, and with all 3 of their lanes pushing at this point, not much that TT can do. I think we're going to see a pretty fast closeout from the side of LNG. They have the waves pushing, they can group, they have longer range in their compositions as well. I would even argue they have the better front line with the Leona. So LNG can play any which way, but I think it's going to be pretty fast.
It is going to be very, very fast. Dragon up in 10 seconds, so you'd imagine the TT will try and just keep their waves in order, let that one go away so that they don't lose too much in terms of the tower game, but it's so hard. 2 items onto the Xayah, 2.5 items onto your Azir, 2 full items as well for the Gnar. He hasn't even finished his cull. He's still stacking that bad boy. He's got 4 more stacks on that to finish off and get an extra little bit of influx of gold. It just feels like it's slipping away from TT, and right now, there's not really a huge amount they can look for. They honestly need a mistake from LNG to really try and make this happen.
This is a good cheeky play from TT. They're going to get a bit of gold into their pocket. It's a 4-man stack onto the top side. Very unexpected for LNG, and I like that. You know, they're making sure they have as much as possible when they finally have to defend their inhibitors, and it's going to be really, really soon. Like I was talking about, LNG outmatched TT pretty much across the board. So they're going to be going into that in inhibitor siege really, really soon. And TT just have to prepare for it at this point. We have seen a lot of accidents happen while teams are trying to siege against Orianna. So there is something that TT can hope for.
Like we said, LPL, the League of Miracles. We have seen far crazier things happen in this league, and to far better opponents or far bigger gaps, if you will. But right now, it is still very, very difficult. Zhonya's Hourglass finished up for Icon. He is just a monster on this Azir. And the late game scaling of the Azir, the Xayah, the carries on the side of LNG, it's just kind of coming into it right now. Xayah's still waiting on maybe half an item until she's really there, but you got to be feeling good because, you know, overall, considering how the start of this game happened for the side of LNG, TT had the advantage in bot side, and they just weren't able to make anything happen with it.
It was really difficult to see how TT could have made more use out of that bottom lane, considering the fact they didn't have priority in either of their solo lanes, and Tarzan was willing to shadow at the expense of CSing. So, yeah, I just feel like this is a pretty huge draft loss on the side of TT, and if you are confident in your players' abilities to just outmatch the enemy team regardless of what champions they take, this is how you draft for LNG. You just take the blue side, you make sure it's a skirmish-oriented game, and a lot of times a team like TT that doesn't have the best players, they will over-index into their own compositions and actually allow you the counter picks, even if you are on blue side. So I just love what LNG did in the draft. It's a very, very confident draft, and you can see what you should do to win out with a draft like this. So, you know, this is something that I hope IG actually does a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that we kind of hope to see. Again, I like to say that TT have come into this and made improvements compared to their last series. Yes, they probably will lose this one. Always a chance, but it's a very small, slim chance overall for TT to try and come back in. But I feel like the improvements they've made, the general difference between them in their first series versus now, are night and day. These guys look like they found out what they want to do. They look like they know where they want to go as a team and where they want to focus as their win conditions. And that, honestly, is just such a huge improvement comparatively. Because, again, we thought that this team was not going to be able to pick up a series. They might be able to do it now because they're just looking a lot better. And that's a positive in my eyes, even if you do lose this 2-1.
I will say I'm pretty impressed with Bless. He's definitely been holding his own in a lot of situations. And as a substitute jungle on DMO, we really didn't expect him to do much whatsoever on this new composition. Mikua just having some fun here.
Having some fun, but joined by Tarzan. Bless did use his flash, but should be going down pretty damn easily. They get the TP out of Captain as well. And with no real objective on the board, you can see LNG, they're starting to play with their food just a little bit.
Not a lot of outs for TT at this point. None of the lanes are winning. This is just going to happen over and over again. It really is the only chance I would say for TT to come back on this one are Baron steals and inhibitor defense, where they do have a pretty good wombo combo with the shockwave coming in from Orianna. Chalitza can put out a lot of AoE damage, but outside of that, it's all about catching mistakes at this point. Not really much that they can do. I'm going to continue on my rant about TT players overall. I felt like Captain, he did come in with a bit of promise. He did come from a very good LDL team, but from what we've seen, not really able to match up to the best of the league. His matchup against Crying was pretty tragic, and once again, against Icon, I don't think he did a great job whatsoever. Chalitza also was a bit of a weak top laner in the previous splits that we saw him, and I think that trend is going to continue. He was kind of the primary Renekton abuser. He always picked Renekton no matter the situation, even a lot of defensive Renekton picks. So, you know, he's kind of showed up as a bit of a pushover in lane. This is what we know him for, and he's going to try and make it up in the team fights right now, though.
They get the Gale Force out of Light, so no initial escape there for the AD carry of LNG to try to get themselves a push on this. And you feel the idea was there. They want to try and catch somebody out, but they're being chased down quite a bit there by Mikuya. Dragon is available, and Light is going to be sent to deal with that one with his jungler and support, while the rest of LNG, his mid laner and his jungler, while the rest of LNG just position around this Baron. They do not want to give away a third Drake for a Baron. They shouldn't, as they have picked that one up very, very cleanly for themselves. This is it for TT. You need something like this. You need a play that catch people out. But with that Scryer It's going to be very, very difficult. Makuya is here, has not got Mega for a very, very long time. Teen is off to the sides. They don't know exactly where he is. Grand Sky focus it. Now they know where Teen is. He's going to try and jump in, but it's stolen by LNG. Teen can do nothing on the backside, and the rest of TT just got to retreat. You got to get out. Mission abort has failed. Sharima Shuffle, it's a double kill for Icon as he chased down Captain. Will not be able to get the final ticket damage down, but Chalitza flashing in, trying to get that Ruthless Predator down. Will not be able to get it through the golden gates of the Azir. The Xayah goes up, the Xayah comes down and picks up another kill. It's going to be 3 kills, 4 kills, maybe even 5. It is eventually gonna happen. It's a doubles on top of triples, which means it's a full house for the side of LNG, and they will take the ace, they take the Baron, and they're gonna take the base.
Sam D does have his dignity intact as he finally takes down the raid boss in light, but that's just too little too late. LNG with a beautiful Baron steal are going to close this series out. Very well done on their part. You know what, LNG, you might be able to outsmart them, but you're not going to be able to outmuscle them 3 games in a row.
No, not 3 games. 1 game, maybe 2 games, perhaps, but not 3. As you can see, LNG just starting to pad those stats as they take down these Nexus turrets. They fall. The Nexus is next to follow, and LNG will continue their undefeated series streak in the LPL.
Taking down IG in their first series. This one a little bit easier on the competition, but they are able to walk over TT in the very end. I love what they did in this drafting phase, just super confident in their players. They know they have the mechanical edge. They have the better talent on their side. So they're getting a ton of counter picks even onto the blue side. They just absolutely crush any hopes for TT for building up these cheese combinations. They had a bad game too with the Seraphine, and Ale definitely wasn't performing up to his usual standards, but they bring Makuya back in. So I really like the flexibility from the coaching staff, realizing where your players are at, realizing how good your players actually are, and just taking this win home.
And for LNG, this is fantastic to have that, you know, Ale in the backside. Like we said, a similar player to the Shy in the sense of he can pop off, he can look to kind of go for that, you know, style of engage or in style of play. But for the side of LNG, that wasn't what they needed right now. So they go back to Makuya. He works out far better for the team, and you can see them. They're happy.